Hello everyone and welcome to something a little bit of a break from our 1001 Spike Salt. This is A Wizard's Lizard by Lost Decade Games. If you've been following the channel for a while, you may recall that I've shown this game off before, which was around its original release time back in, I believe it was around January. Since then, the game has been greenlit and the developers have spent a lot of time putting more content into the game and preparing it for its Steam release, which is, as of the time this video goes up, today. So assuming this is the same price on Steam as it was on Humble, it'll be $15. What is it? It's a very much top-down roguelike twin-stick shooter-ish action game. Very much Binding of Isaac, Our Darker Purpose, similar style, with a few unique twists that we'll get into as we go here. But let's get underway. So right now we only have one character unlocked, so let's just jump in as Raga, who is our basic character. And we're going to start off in the town here. Now we have this chest, which as you play through more will have more money in it to start with, which will allow you to buy some stuff to prepare you for your journey into the dungeons. So if we come down here, we can go into our shop where items that we have unlocked are available to purchase. So we can get helmets, we can get a lantern, we can get this book over here. Let's go ahead and get... These things are expensive, they might be good. Ranger's hand wraps. I don't really know what a lot of these items do, I will say that much. So we will see. It looks like one of those gave us a little bit of extra health, the helmet. Looks like it gave a little bit of extra health as a way of showing the increase in defense. So for those of you unaware, you do start out in this little hub world area where there are a bunch of different villagers. Oop. The shortcut leads to the sewer, but it's blocked by a mysterious green crystal. But yeah, you start out in this town, and as you go through, you can unlock more townsfolk who will return to the tavern here and around the town, who you can interact with a little bit. And more importantly, as you get more of them, you do get more gold to start with, which allows you to prepare yourself more for the dungeon. But let's get into the starting dungeon here, which is the graveyard. Or the cemetery, I guess I should say. There are some things I've learned about this game since I last covered it that I didn't actually know back then. If I can, I will try to show them off. We do have a shop. If we wanted to, we could rob the shopkeeper. Okay, so that's one of the new abilities, as is this totem here. Oh god, this guy has definitely got an AI upgrade. Oh god. Yeah, this guy is definitely harder than he used to be. Robbing stores is not as viable now. Although, this will give us a good chance to show off one of the key mechanics in the game pretty early, most likely. Earlier than I really anticipated, but not a bad thing. Okay, he does seem to be relatively predictable once you get the new AI down. And he is dead, which means we can take these boots, this axe, and this tunic. Now the axes are going to bounce for us, which is a plus in some ways. And we're also at 5 health, so you know, we're on the verge of death, right? We're not going to last very long at this rate. But we'll see what happens when we do die, because that is a key mechanic, and something that in some ways does kind of make this game a little bit easier than something like Isaac or Our Darker Purpose. But you'll see exactly what I mean here as soon as we take another hit, pretty much. We're going to clear out these zombies, because why not? Almost took that killing hit. So yes, we are going to explore. If we hit, which key was it? I think we have to go escape. No, not escape. Or maybe. This is going to show us our weapons, which is going to let us see what's going on there. Our hand wraps increase our speed. That's going to decrease soul power, increase maximum health. Increases totem effect, equipped to feet. Increases totem duration, equipped to chest. We also have our map here. So our start menu is relatively useful. It does look like perhaps there's a sprint function. Yes, shift is sprint. That is something that was not in the game when I last played. And there's a lot of new stuff. New enemies, apparently the bosses have gotten reworked a bit, much like the shopkeeper has. A lot of new stuff in this version that I don't think I will do a very good job of showing off all of, but hopefully we'll be able to show off at least a bit. We're going to open this chest and get Battle Mage Gauntlets. What do those do? Increases soul power, increases weight. Okay, I don't know how much weight affects us, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. And we've got one of the new types of rooms, which is pretty much just a bunch of explosions, which is actually rather fun in its own way. Let's blow this stuff up. And there are some pressure plates here as well, it seems. Let's hit these, and that should, yes, unlock the door. Good. I'm actually surprised we haven't taken another hit of damage. When I say that in some ways this game is easier than something like Our Darker Purpose or Isaac, that's not to be taken as the game is not difficult, because it certainly is. There are just certain mechanics at play that kind of allow you more room for error than you're going to get in one of those games. And you will, again, see what I'm talking about the next time I take damage, pretty much. But for now, we're going to try to stay alive, because why not? We can farm these guys for a little bit of money if we wanted to, until their patches wear out. Okay, and let's get down here. Go away, zombies, please. There was a crown in that little vase, or whatever it was. We're getting a lot of money. I like to see that. Kill that bird with the explosion. Kill this one like so. Another crown. Okay. Cemetery 1 complete. I did not actually realize that was the exit. Okay, my bad. There's probably more that I could have found there, but regardless, we shall move on. It's not the worst thing, let's be honest here. Grab some more gold. Yeah, I was gonna say, those white birds are probably gonna be the death of me. But as you can see, when we die, the game doesn't end. And here's what I'm talking about when I say that there is a system in place that is kind of a core mechanic, but also certainly influences things in a way that makes them, you know, a little bit more forgiving. In that one of the main mechanics is, as I take a ton of damage on this room, is this ability to keep going once you die. A ring of multi-strike, what do? I mean, it seems pretty obvious, but increases projectile count, increases projectile spread, equipped to finger. Oh, so it's double shot. Cool. But yeah, when you die, it's not just game over. Death is not necessarily the end. Book of Magic. Okay, that's another item that I'm not aware of. Increases soul power, equipped to book pouch. Okay. I really wish I could buy this health, but we'll buy a steak. Should give us some health. And let's move on. As you see, the shopkeeper doesn't necessarily stay angry at you when you kill one of them. Which does take away a little bit of the incentive against killing the shopkeeper that other games such as Spelunky have. But now that we're dead, you are going to start to see some differences. For example, that little skeleton thing we just killed was the equivalent of one of those ghosts that we saw before that were just incorporeal and harmless. Now when we find them while dead, they're going to be actual enemies. That was a mimic. Okay. I hate you, Mimic. So let's keep going and see if we can show off one of the ways that this death mechanic is used, other than enemies that are normally not a threat becoming a threat. As you see, it certainly increases the, oh god. Why, Whitebird? Why? You see, we do have a spawning area here, which is, why we keep getting more of those white guys even when we aren't killing anything. We are actually very close to a real death, by the way. And that was a mimic, and that did it. So we didn't get to show off the, kind of differences, or all the types of differences that we're going to be running into with that. But let's jump back in here. We're going to get our 2,500 gold. We are going to buy maybe Monster Manual, and let's try the Spear. Spear doesn't seem bad. Okay. So we'll enter right back in here. I do have to say, as I said in my initial video, the art style, the music, is all very much something I can get into. It's a very, comparatively to a lot of games in this genre, it is very much a lighthearted game, which is actually a really nice thing. It's very easy to kind of just relax with it. Even though it is very difficult, the look of it and the kind of lighthearted nature definitely do lend it to being more of a relaxing experience than something that is everything looking terrifying. Let us kill these things off. We're going to open this chest, not a mimic. We get a dungeon map, which presumably is going to be exactly what it sounds like. By the way, the monster manual is going to show off enemy health, which allows us to see exactly what we're up against at any given point. Do have another one of these grave rooms. Let's kill these guys off. Now in some of these rooms you can actually come upon a mini-boss of sorts, which can only be fought when you're dead, but gives you a weapon reward. In fact, we found it right there. That ghost that looks a little bit different is actually a mini-boss of sorts. Not really a mini-boss, I guess, but more of a champion enemy that does give us a reward when we kill it, if we do. But of course, to fight it, we would need to be dead, which we are not currently. So that is one thing, is that there are certain benefits to being dead, certain benefits to being alive, and to kind of try to manage that is not necessarily the easiest thing in the world. Especially considering you can come back to life after dying, which is something I didn't get the chance to show off on the last run. But it is, it's very much limited. It's not something you can just do whenever you feel like it. It's something that you kind of have to have the right place and right time for. Shopkeeper appears to be selling... I kind of want whatever this totem is, but do I want to fight the shopkeeper again? Not really. Let's just leave him be this time. First things first, we're going to take out the zombies, because they aren't very much of a threat at all. Take out the bird. So yeah, of course, if I didn't make this clear earlier, this is all procedurally generated. Each time you go in, you're going to have a different layout of the floor you're on. Different items are going to be available. Different types of rooms are going to spawn everything. So very much something that you can play many times without it being the same experience exactly. And again, it's very punishing. Don't get me wrong when I say that it's lighthearted, when I say it's a little bit easier maybe than Isaac, Our Darker Purpose, etc. It is a very punishing game. It's just a matter of the fact that you can kind of balance your health by way of using the death system is certainly something that gives you a little bit more maneuverability in terms of survival. Oh, I thought that was going to happen. We got a soul orb, which I assume gives us more soul uses, yes. That is something that, again, was not there in the version that I played initially. It is one of the new features, and so I am not very familiar with how exactly is best to use it. But let's keep going as best as we can. You can buy a blueprint for 5,000, Ring of Dexterity. We can't hurt the blueprint salesperson, by the way. If you want the blueprint, you have to buy it. That's a way of kind of gating things from you trying to just spam the first few floors to kill the blueprint keeper and then use that to get all the items unlocked for the early game. We get a spiked helm. Spiked helm is going to increase our attack, equipped to head. Cool. Another soul orb. A goblet. Some of that health would be nice, but obviously we can't afford that right now. Oh god. There's now a bomb there. And again, we see a ghost enemy that can't hurt us while we're alive, but if we were dead, we would have to deal with that. So again, the death mechanic is not something that's just kind of thrown in to be there. It is something the game is very much designed around having. And it works really well. There are plenty of ways it comes into play that I haven't even come close to showing off yet because we haven't run into the right situation. But, you know, the difference it makes is notable. It's not just something that's there, and that is very important when you're doing something like that. You're going to hopefully kill these guys off before they can hit us. Good. Then we'll head around this way. Haha! I probably should have saved that for some of the more threatening enemies in this room, since there are a lot of guys throwing double knives at me. I am much less afraid of the zombies than I am of the goblins. Oh god. That was a good shot, Goblin Man. I'll give it to you. Let us try our best to kill these guys. Okay. We got some treasure from the little jar. I am on the lookout for some things I would like to explain when we get to them, but we haven't come across them yet. We are moving on to Cemetery 3, however, which I believe is the boss floor. Not positive, I don't remember precisely, but if not the boss floor, it is one level before the boss floor. Again, like most games of this style, you're going to have a few different environments that you go through. Each one is going to be... Let's get this thing, because this looks cool. Charm of Totemic Life. Increases totem duration. Okay, that wasn't as useful as I thought it was. Shaman Tunic is... what again? Increases totem duration. Okay, so our totems are going to last real long. I have not been using totems very well. Okay, and that's our first death of this run. Hopefully I'll be able to show off some of the interesting mechanics that this comes with this time around, instead of just kind of dying again very quickly and not being able to. I do prefer the spear over the axe, even though it does less damage, so that is not necessarily impossible. I do have to be a bit wary about that werewolf. Took him out just fine though. And let's keep moving. We're going to open this chest. It's going to contain fireproof gloves, presumably increased fire resistance. Yes, okay. So enemies that attack with fire will not do as much damage to us. I should add, if you haven't seen my last video, this is a game that was kickstarted a while back. I believe, if I recall correctly, it has been a while. But if I recall correctly, its original name during the Kickstarter was Crypt Run. By the way, these fans are new. I have never seen them before. And oh my god, do they cause some pain. Okay, so that's going to be our boss room, obviously, based on the design around the door. I don't see any reason to doubt that, at least, but let's head off this way. Don't want to fight the boss just yet. Want to see if I can show off a little bit more of the mechanics in this. Let's head down this way and to the left. Oh god, he just kept going, didn't he? Oh god. Okay. Let's keep going. See what we can do. I'm not sure, but I do believe those orange shots that are getting fired in at us are fire attacks. So those are the kind of thing that we have increased resistance against. Get rid of those guys the easy way by way of the explosive barrel. Okay. And this is a villager, which is one of the other things that we haven't shown off in this particular video yet. One thing I should add, if you do go back and look at my old video as well, another thing that has been added this time around is that the bosses are a little bit more varied pattern-wise than they were when I played the first time. So, you know, it's not quite as pattern recognition as it was the first time through. So this guy we saved, he goes back to town. That means we have an extra 500 gold to start with on each run, which means we can buy more from the blacksmith shop, which means that we can start off a little bit stronger in a very kind of Rogue Legacy-esque way. That's another thing to add, is that the one thing that I did kind of question the first time I played this was that it didn't seem, at least, that there was very much boss variety. And by that I mean that every time you got to the end of the cemetery you were fighting the same boss. Every time that you got to the end of the next segment you were fighting the same boss. It doesn't have that kind of thing that a lot of these type of games have, where there are several bosses for each type of floor and you fight a randomized one each time. The bosses are certainly, or at least were set pretty consistently, to a point where I had only ever seen one boss in the time I spent with it. They were set pretty consistently. I like those explodey rooms. Battle Mage Helm versus Spiked Helm. Let's go with Spiked Helm. But yeah, that is certainly one thing that I know a lot of people might question. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does mean that, you know, once you know how one boss fights, you're going to be able to get through the boss of that segment each time. There's not kind of the learning curve of learning not just one of the bosses of a floor, but all of them. It's kind of, once you learn one, you know what you're up against going forward. We have actually surprisingly not run into any of the side effects of the death mechanic, which is rather unusual. I think I've explored pretty much the whole floor. So there's the boss room and the room after it. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to show that off on this run, which is unfortunate. But some examples of stuff from the earlier version of the game, if you don't want to go back and look at my original video on it, where I did get to show off some of that. There are certain blocks that will only be visible, or will only be corporeal, I guess is a good way to put it, when you're dead, and vice versa when you're alive. And that can make it so that, you know, one of the things that you might have to do is let yourself die to get a key that'll, on, let's say, the next floor, let you get to a chest if you're alive. So you kind of have to first get yourself killed, then bring yourself back to life. Yes, you can bring yourself back to life. It does give you a zombie warlord. Hello again, my old friend. Bringing yourself back to life does give you some benefits. It does mean that you are going to get your health back. You are going to be able to bring yourself, and you're going to be able to get not just the health of your current, and not just some of your living health back, but it also means that when you die next, you're going to be at max death health, which is, of course, noticeable. I don't know if that totem use was wise, but we're going to try it. Okay. Everyone dies. Should take out this thing so those guys aren't spawning endlessly anymore. Soul Blast seems like it actually does a decent bit of damage. But yeah, this guy is certainly more varied in terms of attack pattern than he was last time I played. Last time it was the exact same pattern every time, and it made him very predictable and easy to defeat. He's got no more zombies he can spawn, so we're in good shape here. I think we'll beat this guy, but I don't think we'll survive very long afterwards. That should be doing some extra damage to him, I think. Oh, I got hit with it. Oh. Okay, well, I am a little bit tight on recording time today. As I mentioned in one of my 1001 Spikes videos, I had a little bit short in time over usual. So I'm going to have to cut this here. A Wizard's Lizard, as mentioned, is going to be launching on Steam today, the 16th of June. Apologies. Again, on Humble, it's $15. I'm going to assume Steam is the same. Possibly an opening week sale, since that's quite common, but I don't know for sure. Regardless, if you want to pick it up, it is a very fun game. It's a game that I haven't spent all that much time with, because a lot of my gaming time is stuff that I put on the channel, and there was other stuff coming around that I was covering a little bit more. I might come back to this game, do another video or so on it next weekend when I have a little bit more time. Try to show off a little bit more of the mechanics. If you are interested in it, that is probably a thing that will happen. In the meantime, I do encourage you to take a look at this game. If nothing else, take a look at some other coverage. It's, not necessarily the hardest roguelike out there, but it is punishing. It does have a lot of that feel, and it's got an interesting mechanic. The death stuff, I know I didn't really show off a whole lot of it due to kind of luck of the draw, but it does have a lot to it that kind of encourages you to use strategy in terms of when it's better to get yourself killed, when it's better to bring yourself back to life, and so on and so forth, is definitely something that needs consideration when it comes to how to play through this game. I think it adds a really nice element. I think the game itself is very fun. Boss variety isn't the highest. It's not the most difficult of the games in the genre, but it has a lot in its own merits. It is a very fun game in its own right. Not being the most difficult isn't a bad thing, mind you. It is nice to have a game like this that isn't necessarily, you die on within 10 seconds, which has happened to me in both of the examples I mentioned earlier. But it's still got the difficulty that keeps you wanting to play more, that's going to make it so that you don't just run through the game on your first try. The persistent progression does make a little bit of a difference, but not an overwhelming difference as it does in something like, say, Rogue Legacy. All around, I very much encourage you to check this out. Again, if nothing else, more coverage. It's a very fun game. It is, I think, worth the money. It's up to you, honestly, but I think that this is the kind of thing that you can spend a decent amount of time with. You can get your money's worth for sure. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the episode. And, like I said, I'm probably going to be showing this game off a little bit more next week. When I have a little bit more recording time, can show off a little bit more in depth. But until then, we'll be back to 1001 Spikes. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Later.